Good morning, everyone, and a warm word of welcome to today's webinar. Can jobs to be done approach make our work more productive? Now, where the title comes from, my name is Gerrit Kloete, by the way, if we haven't met each other, and over there is
Richard de Villiers. Welcome, everybody. It's so great to be with you.
Yeah, Richard mentioned this phrase to me, jobs to be done, the other day, and I said to him, what on earth are you talking about? What is jobs to be done? Is it something like Getting Things Done, the book by David Allen? And he said to me, no, let me help you. So he explained to me the essence of jobs to be done. And by the way, today we're not going to do PowerPoints and all of that kind of stuff. Richard and I are going to chat, like a fireside chat. You come in the chat. Please let us know in the chat how things are going. But Richard, in a sentence or two, can you please explain the essence of jobs to be done? And if you can, in the same instance, also help me understand how we can make this approach applicable to our everyday context, our emails, what's on our desk, what's happening in the meetings. Over to you.
Thank you, Gerrit. Yes. So the critical element of jobs to be done is to just really so that we all can get out and identify a solution that is just considerably better than the current solution. In other words, we look to find the real needs of what it is that the job needs to do. And I can illustrate this by an example, bringing it closer. So just to say that jobs to be done is actually a huge theory, a huge methodology that applies and can scale to company delivery of products and services and better products and services. But for us, Gerrit and I spoke about it and said, well, how do we get it closer to home? And I'll give you an example where it struck home for me was when, the critical thing is the first step to do is to detach yourself from the solution. So let me give you this example. I have a monitor, 2 laptops and 1 monitor. And what did I do is I attached myself to the solution first, and I went and I said, oh, I'm really struggling with having to switch between the laptops and 1 monitor, so I need another monitor. That was the solution. But when I stood back from a jobs to be done perspective and said, oh, hang on, what is really the issue here? And it is that I have to take the HDMI cable from the 1 laptop, plug it into the other laptop, get to sync the 2, put it into display mode, and then get it to display on this 1 monitor. Then I want to use the other laptop. I unplug because I want to extend the use. And this frustration of switching the HDMI and resetting. So no, the real job to be done is I just need an easy way to switch between this monitor. And when I researched it, what did I find? A hub, a HDMI hub, and a remote, a little remote. I click the button, and I can now switch between the laptops through to the monitor just by virtue of this button. So no need that I have to go and spend and buy another monitor. I literally just use this adapter to switch between the 2, and the job was done.
Okay, no, that's a good practical example. After you told me about jobs to be done, I can't help myself. I go to Google and I type in, what on earth is jobs to be done? And it's a really interesting thing. And I want people in the meeting today, and welcome to everybody again who's joined us since we started. In the chat, I just like you to quickly pop in, why do you buy products and services generically? Why do people buy products and services? For what reason do we buy products and services? Now, while you do that, Richard, you can please just follow the chat there. I read something interesting about this jobs to be done thing. People buy projects and services, products and services to get a job done. We'll see what your specific reason is, but would you agree that products come and go? Let's take, for example, managing email. What is the job to be done? Richard, can you maybe explain in 1 or 2 words, what is the job to be done when we're looking at our email inbox? What's the job to be done?
Typically, we'll say we want that inbox cleared, right, in each of the emails processed. So to process the emails.
Okay. So, and what I understand is when you describe jobs to be done, is you begin with the verb. So process the email. I'm looking at Nita says people think they need it.
Yeah.
Aino says we buy because we like the brand and the product. Yes, all of that is true. But would you agree, and you can just type yes in the chat if you agree with this, people buy products and services to get a job done. And, whatever the job is, but, you buy a TV to get a job done. You don't buy a TV just to have a TV, but what to job done. So maybe Richard, would you say that For example, let's say you have a family and you want to strengthen the family ties. How can we do that? How can we do that? You can buy a TV. So it's not having the TV, but it's to build the family ties. Would that be an example of the real job to be done?
I feel so, Gerrit, again, you're just illustrating very nicely that the job to be done is the ties of the family. It's not to buy the TV, because we could consider around the dinner table or the table and just have a really good, great social and family gathering, and that binds the family. So yes.
So I see, Ludi agrees that we buy stuff because the stuff must get a job done for us. Now, when I've read further, interesting thing is that the job to be done stays stable over time. Now, let's take the example that I mentioned of email management. I want to process my emails efficiently. That's the job to be done. Agreed, Richard?
Yep.
All right. So technology changes. We have Microsoft Outlook. You have Outlook.com. You have Gmail. You have, I don't know what you have. And to manage your projects, you've got this and that and Monday.com and all the technology. But technology comes and goes. That was, for me, was the interesting thing. But the job to be done remains stable over time. And it is solution agnostic. Now, Richard, please explain. Oh, that's a fancy word that I don't really understand. You mentioned something about solutions at the beginning. What's the link between my problem, the job to be done, and the solution?
So I think, Gerrit, again, typically especially when you speak about solution agnostic, it means that it's a mindset change, right? This is where the difference really comes in jobs to be done. It means that typically when you catch yourself putting that solution on the table, break just there, step back and say, what is the real need here? That's why the solution is put at a distance, and your process and the jobs to be done approach is solution agnostic. So stand back and look at the real requirements.
Does the agnostic mean it doesn't care about it? So it doesn't matter whether I bring Outlook or Gmail to the problem. The problem doesn't care.
And mainly, Gerrit, because if you're going to say, I want Outlook, you could be missing the real reason why you need it. And that's why you say, hang a minute, let me not think of Outlook. Let me just say, I want to process the email. So what is the real? I want to I want to do it easily, identify and tag the mail, flag the mail, move the mail. So that doesn't matter whether that's Outlook or Gmail or whatever, but that's my need. And then you'll start looking and saying, now, how best do I meet this need?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask everybody on the call, if you look at your screen and if the chat column is open on the right-hand side, to the bottom right-hand corner of the chat column, you see your space where you normally type. Then below that, you have a little hand, and you have an emoji, and you have an @ sign. So I'm going to make a statement now, and I would like you to click on the emoji icon now. And then after you've heard my statement, select the emoji that reflects your response to the statement. And the statement is, people want products and services to help them get the job done better and cheaper and faster. Like, pick an emoji and let us know. People want products and services to help them get the job done cheaper, better, and faster. I see Tanya's got, look at all the thumbs up, thumbs up. Good. It seems that we have a universal problem today, Richard. Even if someone says West, where you are, because all the emojis all over the world are stuck on thumbs up, even in Ireland and in George and all over the show. Anyway, so we want products and services to get the job done cheaper and better. Now, we have about 7 minutes or so left. I'd like to move to something, Richard, about simplifying stuff. And with your monitor situation was a good example of simplifying stuff. Now, I made a mistake yesterday, just for everybody's information, when Richard and I talked about this, and I said to him, "No, are we now into asking why I must do a job?" And you go into the 5 whys until you ultimately have the reason. He said, no, you got it wrong. The jobs to be done approach is not about why am I doing something, but what is the H word? Of the W word, rather. What is the real job to be done? Not why, but what is the real job? So stand back, as Richard said. Don't get stuck into, or don't fall in love with the solution. That's maybe an overkill. And Richard, I'm still on track there. Hey, it's about what is the real job to be done, not why and all the fancy stuff.
Definitely so, Gerard. I think, when you do the why, the 5 why principle is great to get to the actual core of what is behind what it is happening. But it then typically detaches emotionally as well. The jobs to be done actually very much brings emotion into it as play, as well as the social, as well as the functional. So that's why it's a little more holistic than just chopping it down to a core why. And the what is definitely more important.
Okay. So what is the real job to be done? Now, I'm going to ask you, by the way, for everybody's information, Richard is really a specialist in using Microsoft Teams as a productivity tool. Not as, yes, he helps people to click here, click here, click here, just as we do with Outlook. But Richard really specializes in using Microsoft Teams in a productive fashion. So for those of you who are Teams users, just listen to this question. And if you would like to have a chat with Richard afterwards about using Teams more productively, you can then just type the word Teams into the chat. We're not going to do a poll or anything like that. If you would like to chat with Richard afterwards about Teams. Now, Richard, let's focus on Teams and talking about what is the real job to be done. So sometimes, I use Teams, but for me, it's way too complex. I look at the screen and I see all these things and I get overwhelmed with all the options and technology. So do you find the same? And if so, what is the real job to be done? Why did people get Microsoft Teams? To get what job done?
Gerrit, nice question. At the bottom, at the end of it, it's a matter of being organized. So you can organize through Teams, you can organize your team, you can organize your task, you can coordinate because you can engage with people and coordinate things to be done. And then you can literally just use it as a central hub, right, to bring all your work into one space to function effectively. So you've got your chats and your meetings and your planning and the apps that comes into it. So it actually is a nice hub to work from as well, centralize your workday.
But do you think, what do you think was the question that people asked about what is the job we want Teams to do? In two words, a verb and an object.
Yeah. I really think it was a matter of how do we communicate effectively? How do we engage effectively?
So yeah, the job to be done is effective team communication or communicate effectively in my team.
Exactly.
And then that thing came. Oh, okay, great stuff. They could use the telephone. That's a solution. They could use letters in the South African Post Office, or
you can stick to mail.
You can do that. So okay, so but it's just for me personally, and anybody on the call today, and this won't cost you anything. Richard loves talking about Teams and how you can use it productively. If you would like Richard to get in touch with you, just type the word Teams in the chat, and then we can pick it up from there. But Richard, I want to ask you something else. What is the job to be done? Let's say I'm in a work environment. I have a manager. I have people working with me, colleagues, and people working in my team, etc. Now, how do I know what the job is to be done? For example, let's say my boss, and I think I've got to do certain things, and I'm very busy with this, and then I take it to the boss a week later, and the boss says, "Hey, but this is not what I wanted." Do you have any ideas about how I can clarify what is the real job to be done here, boss? What is the real job to be done here, Teams? Oh, not Microsoft Teams, but in my team. So who are my clients? What is the lens through which I look at the work I want to do? Any ideas about that clarifying process, Richard?
Again, just sticking to the fact that we're looking for the best solution ultimately, so the best outcome, then the big thing is to hone in on what is the real requirement. So I think that's the one thing that we tend to, the takeaway here today is really, it's that mindset to not overlay a solution. So when you engage with your boss, with your manager, with a person where you need to understand what they need, sit down and really just look at it in the spectrum, understand, ask those questions around the need and not the outcome. So because then it is already, the manager says, I want you to produce this presentation and must have 6 slides and speak to that. I hear that, but can I understand what is behind it? Who is the audience? Let me understand with you. What is the topic at hand here? Is it this big, that big? And in other words, we can't take the mandate for granted, but I think there should be leeway with your engagement with whoever you're delivering to get some understanding of the real need. Then you can contextualize and then come up with what it is that should be put on the table.
I'm going to throw you a curveball now. Let's say I'm your boss, and I come to you and I say, do this, do this, do that. And you come to me and you question me and you say, but what is this behind and what is the real thing? And I say to you, Richard, we don't have time to talk about that. Just do it. How would you respond?
Gerrit, I'm sure most or many of us have maybe found that that response coming through. But typically, there's always the matter of respect. Just respectfully, may I just understand a little more context so I can give you the best that you need? And I can't see why people will discount that and say, I'm not interested in the best. Just do. I think if one can just put it in that position and context, I want to give you the best solution.
I think that's important. Yeah, that's a nice one. And also, for example, I'm just picking up on that. This is off topic, but when somebody keeps on interrupting you, you can just say to them, I want to give you the best possible attention that I can. I cannot give it to you right now. Please go away and come back at 2:00. So I think, that's an important thing there. Thank you for Tanya and Aina who mentioned Teams there. Anybody on the call, if you would like Richard to get in touch with you and just talk about using Teams for the real job that Teams was intended for, just put the word Teams in the chat. I would like to ask you something though, just before we go. I would like to ask you to respond to the following poll. And then I'm going to give you a handout to download. Richard and I talked about the possibility of taking today's topic, and again, the job to be done today by this webinar is just to make you aware of the philosophy and the process of jobs to be done. And we're thinking of doing a proper 1-hour webinar, maybe charge something like $357 for it. I don't know. And if you just respond to the poll, please, if you wouldn't mind, would you be interested in something like that or not, or maybe? So just let us know, and you don't have to complete this, but we would like to hear from you. Just because we wouldn't like to spend a lot of energy on doing it, and then there's nobody interested. Okay, so great stuff. So thank you for responding to the polls there, Richard. We are out of time. Thank you so much for everybody who joined us today. Any closing thoughts, Richard?
Please, just that one takeaway: the mindset shift. To just stand back from the solution, just get into that habit of just questioning what really needs to be done here. And you'll find it's going to make a huge difference just in the way you apply and come up with a solution ultimately.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Just the feedback on the polls. I see 20% nobody wants it. So 80% said maybe, 20% said no. So there's some food for us. Thank you for that feedback. And I would like you, as a closing shot, in the chat, everybody, what are you going to do right now? And what is the real job that you are addressing with your next actions? Just in the chat, just type what are you going to do now, and what is the real job to be done there? That will be interesting to see. Oh yes, thank you. I know the handout. The handout is on its way now. It's a PDF about jobs to be done. It's the book actually, but it's for free. It's a free download on the internet. So I thought I would spare you that time. So, Anna, can you just confirm, please, that the handout is available? Tanya, how to make it simple? Yeah, and by the way, the way I understand the format of jobs to be done is a verb, and then what the verb is about. Great stuff. Thanks, Anna. Is manage email properly. So that's the job to be done. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us today, and I really hope that you got something. Just give us in the chat final 1, 2, or 3. You know the drill by now. How much value did you get from today's conversation? 1, no value, waste of time. 2, some value, and 3, yeah, I'm happy that it was here, and I'm taking away something from today. Good value for me. 1, no value. 2, some value, and 3, good value. Thank you so much for the feedback. That always gives us something to work on.
Yes, thank you very much. Encouraging. Nice to see. And I really hope that you get just that better solution when you start engaging with this theory tomorrow.
Okay, thanks everyone. And cheers for now. Have fun.